Alrighty, let's go. Okay, here we are. It's the iMove Project Outcome webinar, and the topic today is planning for successful cycling infrastructure, the development of the Victorian bicycle simulation and prioritization modelling tool using Bendigo as a case study. First up, some housekeeping. This is being recorded. We will let you all know when it is up on the website, which will be tomorrow. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of all the land on which we're meeting today, along with paying respects to the elders of those lands, past and present. Joining us today to present on the project are Bruno Spandonide, who is with the Department of Transport and Planning, Associate Director, Transport Strategy of Hume, Loddon and Mallee. Then we've got Matthew Curlin, who is the Active Communities Coordinator of the City of Greater Bendigo. And from RMIT University, we've got Dr. Afshin Jafari. So first up, we've got Bruno talking. So over to you, Bruno.
Thanks so much, Scott. Yes, so first I'd like also to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which this project is located. It's located on the land of the Jajawong people in Bendigo. And I'd like to pay my respect to the elders past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all First Nation people. This is a really exciting day, incredibly exciting. So first, thanks to everyone for joining. The reason why it's so exciting is that as transport planning professionals, we often have, a lot of practitioners have a bit of a dream tool in mind that could help them to prioritize automatically projects and prioritize them for investment purposes. This has been particularly complex in the world of active transport in particular. And I remember, I actually checked in my notes, Afshin, I remember that we discussed initially this project back in 2022. So it's been a bit of a while, it's been a while, and it's just amazing to see the completion of this project 4 years on. What is really fabulous with this project and quite special really is that this project enables data-driven decisions in terms of walking and cycling investment. Obviously a big focus on cycling today. The methodology is going to be covered in details by Afshin today. The main thing, the key takeaway message is that the tool includes a quadruple bottom line methodology. It's really backed by robust science. It's quite groundbreaking, really. And what it can demonstrate is, I guess, the benefit of low-cost, high-impact projects, particularly with a case study of cycling in Bendigo today. For planners, like people in my teams, I guess the exceptional value is related to the intermodal aspect of that. So how, a cycling project can work in combination with, say, a walking project or a safety project or, an upgrade in terms of public transport. All modes work together. I'd like to, express some really warm thanks to the City of Greater Bendigo, obviously my teams in the Department of Transport and Planning, my colleagues and counterparts, iMove CRC and RMIT. And I'd like now to hand over to Matt. Thanks.
Thanks, Bruno. Just bear with me a second. Hopefully this is working. Please sing out if it isn't. I'd like to also acknowledge City of Greater Bendigo is on Jajawong and Tungarong country, and pay right respects to elders past, present and emerging. Acknowledge I'm calling in from Jarrah country today. So to talk about, I guess, walking and cycling from a Bendigo perspective, and how this project's kind of tied in with what we've done previously and where we're going. I guess it starts from a strategy, our Walk Cycle Greater Bendigo strategy we delivered back in 2019. We heard really strong messaging from our community around a need to be separated from cars and a connected and protected network, which was really strong messaging and something that we look to do with our infrastructure response. We planned a protected walking and cycling network, which is the pink or purple lines on this map, The green is what we have. We've got a lot of work to do to deliver that full network. It's a really ambitious plan, but something that we're keen to do so. And then the challenging part, which is seeking funding and implementation. And I guess we work in a resource-constrained environment where, I guess, with rate capping, which makes things capital works and new capital works really challenging to fund. So then we look for, I guess, external grants, and we have limited funding opportunities. There's not a heap of active transport grants that we can go to each year. So when we get an opportunity like the federal government's Active Transport Fund, we're pretty excited, but so is the rest of Australia. We thought that we had a really strong case with one of our priority projects, which would connect 4 schools, 2 of our key business activity centres, and be delivered in one of our communities that has really poor health outcomes. But obviously that transport fund was pretty competitive. It was significantly oversubscribed and we were unsuccessful. So I guess back at the start of this project and our previous webinar flagged how frustrating it was that we couldn't articulate the benefits for a project like that with a stronger business case. So it's been a really interesting project. It's great to be a part of and see what Afshin and the team has delivered. And now we can really support our funding bids with stronger business cases around the health, environmental and cost benefits. And for an example, like our Eaglehawk to Long Gully project, which was the project we went for that federal active transport fund, we've got a benefit cost ratio of 1.82 for that project, which we'll be able to include in future bids and hopefully strengthen our case for funding, which is a really important part for us. So looking forward to really implementing and using this information to strengthen our business cases and hopefully secure more funding to help deliver our network plan as quickly as we can for our community. Thank you. And over to Afshin.
Actually, I'd like to jump in first if I could. Just a little housekeeping. We do have the Q&A facility available, so if you'd like to ask questions as we go through. I'd also like to say I'm a long-time lurker, first-time host, so I've got to introduce myself. I'm Scott Fitzgerald. I look after the website at iMove. So that's it from me, and back to Afshin to launch into his presentation. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Bruno, Matt, and Scott. I'm going to start sharing my screen. I did a practice and I hope that you're now seeing the correct screen. Is that correct? Perfect. All right, so yes, with the introduction that Bruno and Matt gave to the big project, I'm going to focus a little bit more on what we tried to achieve and we have achieved in this project, and sort of not too technical, but technical enough so that we all understand what is behind the tool that we created, and as well as a demo and sort of a few case examples of using the tool that we generated or created in this project for active transport investment benefits assessment. Before getting into the content, I also acknowledge the people of Woiwurrung and Wonwurrung language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nation, whose unceded land we at RMIT University conduct our business, and we respectfully acknowledge their ancestors and elders past and present. Okay, so looking at the list of people, attendees in the webinar, I'm pretty sure that we all know what need to be done for creating a more sustainable transport system. We all know that as transport planners, decision makers, transport engineers, we all really are familiar with, okay, if we want to create a more sustainable cities, we need to have better supportive infrastructure for sustainable transport. We need to have better bike lanes for people to start riding a bike. All of those things, I think we have now good amount of evidence internationally and nationally that supports that. So the question is no longer what needs to be done. The bigger questions are where to prioritize, because we have limited budget and we want to gain the maximum amount of benefits we can and create the biggest change we can. And to understand how much change will happen as a result of doing something. And that's exactly what we have tried to create in this project. And also it's mostly what my research is around, to build these types of virtual test beds, simulation models or toy models, we can call them different things, to test investments, test infrastructure change, and see what would be the impact of them before spending lots of money and implementing and then wishing for a change. Also in this project, we try to rethink the role of the models in transport planning and decision making. Traditional approach to using a model is a bit more linear, starting from an infrastructure proposed project. And then if it's big enough, if you have the resources, if you have a model existing, a strategic model existing, and you have convince the people who are working with the model to allocate some time to you to test the model. All of those things, then what happens is that it goes into creating the assumptions and parameters and variables for the model. The model, you run it, it takes some time, it gives you some outputs. You use those outputs for a business case and then make a decision based on that. So this process is complicated, it's time consuming, it's resource consuming. And by the time that you get to the end, or you have the simulation strategic model outputs, I think so much money and effort went into it that the decision is probably let's go ahead with it. But what we are doing in this project is to change that way of thinking. We want to create a tool. We want to provide a tool that is making it able to test interventions, investments fast and fairly easily, while still being built on really high quality research that is peer reviewed, published in academic journals, and you get all of those rigorous research back end with a user-friendly front end that you can test and play with it and test your ideas and then decide whether it's a good idea or not to go ahead. Now, for active transport or bikes specifically, it's a really big challenge to do these types of modeling. And the reason is that they are complex types of behaviors. When we are modeling cars or public transport, it's much easier. You are sitting in a metal box and you just go to places, and travel time and money might be the main things that matter for people. But for a bike rider, there are many different things that matter, and how much, for example, a bike lane matters for a bike rider also differs from person to person. So if you're a confident bike rider, you might behave differently or make decisions differently to someone who's new to riding a bike or just considering to ride a bike or not. So that's making it very much complex. And another layer of complexity is that we don't have many bike riders in our cities. So that makes another challenge, which is the limitation of data for using in the modeling. So with that, usually what we see in a lot of the modeling works that happens is that we don't really have a good representation of bikes and bicycle riding in these models. So we went ahead and tried to do all of these, but for a regional city, which makes all of the challenges a bit more exciting for us as researchers to try to solve the challenge. Now, here is an overview of the framework. Now, I'm trying to not to go into all of the details of these because it's going to take too much time, but sort of a quick look. We start from the synthetic population that we have received from Department of Transport and Planning in Victoria. The model is called VITM2. So we start from that as our basis of where are people, where do they live. And based on that, there are a number of components in our modeling work, including building a road network or transport network, building the transport demand or activity-based transport demand, A number of choice modelings we do, how people go from A to B and what mode of transport they use for that. And then we have a core traffic simulator and a number of calibration and validations that we'll talk about, as well as at the end we have a cost-benefit analysis tool for cycling investment testing. Now, in the first webinar we had for this project last year, I talked a lot about transport network generation and going from BITM2 synthetic population to Bendigo ABM, or activity-based model for Bendigo. In this webinar, I'll try to focus less on those. If you're interested, you can watch the previous webinar, but spend more time on the more new things that we developed over the last year. At the same time, I'll provide an overview of all of the components so that if you haven't been in the first webinar or maybe forgot what was presented there, you can still follow. So yeah, don't worry. For the network generation, this is the work that was done mostly by our team member, Mr. Steve Pemberton. So what we did here was try to have an integrated statewide network, similar to what we have for strategic models at that level. But for City of Greater Bendigo, we did a very detailed active transport suitable type of network with all of the footpaths, all of the bike infrastructure included, also lots of attributes, including the cycleway type, a speed limit, school zones, hilliness of the road, greenness or tree canopy coverage, as we call it, and level of traffic stress. All of those we included for City of Greater Bendigo, but for the state, it was a network that was more simplified for better integration. And this was done by purpose and by design, because this enables us to look at trips that, for example, come from Greater Melbourne to Bendigo and Bendigo to other parts of the state. And that way we don't need to exclude and lose a lot of basically trips to the city. And I think that's very important for regional cities, because you get a lot of trips and demand coming from nearby. And I think that's an interesting innovation that we've had in this work. In particular, I want to spend some time on how we calculate level of traffic stress for the network, because this is really important for the whole work. We created a methodology based on existing literature and collaborations with researchers and also our partners in the project to classify roads or streets into 4 categories. Now, there are similar LTS classifications. I think in Australia also there are a few that are being used, and also internationally. The one that we produced here, you can also access the whole code and documentation. It's public. And again, Steve Pemberton did a lot of good work here. We divide basically into LTS 1 to 4. And 1 is where we can consider it suitable for children to ride a bike. So really off-road paths, good separation, low speed limit, low traffic volume. So really good infrastructure. LTS 2 is where we say that it's okay for our mainstream adult population, can feel safe, but maybe not ideal for children to ride. So that's when you have, for example, a separated bike lane on a road that the speed limit is 60, or a bike lane that you have on a road that is 40 kilometers per hour. You feel safe, but maybe not as safe as riding on an off-road path. And LTS 3 is where it might be acceptable to confident bike rider. So for example, you have a bike lane, just a paint on a road, in a road that is 50 kilometers per hour. That's still, I think, acceptable to confident bike rider, but not preferred, and might not be suitable and safe for less confident bike riders to ride. And then we have LTS 4, which basically I would argue that it's not suitable for most people to use. Now, one thing that we did as an innovation in this work was we didn't just look at road type and bikeway type and traffic volume and a speed limit, which is something that is very commonly used nationally and internationally. We also looked at width of bike lane and parking. So if the bike lane is less than 1.2 meter, we don't consider that as a bike lane. And if the buffer separation with parking adjacent to bike lane is less than 0.6 meter, again, we don't consider that as an adequate on-road bike lane. If car park is on top of bike lane, we don't consider that as a bike lane because that shouldn't be the case. You have cars parked on top of bike lane, so there's no point calling that a bike lane. And I just need to mention that this was done possible because of the good work that DTP colleagues did in enriching the OSM, OpenStreetMap dataset for Melbourne and Bendigo. I'm not sure if you have it for other cities in Victoria, or I'm pretty sure we don't have it for other states, width and parking configuration. So yeah, it was really, I think, a fortunate thing that we had, and we took the opportunity to include it in the level of traffic calculation. Okay, so that's the network. The demand, or the Bendigo ABM, activity-based model, a quick overview. We start from, as I said, VTEM2 population, and also VISTA, which is the Victorian Integrated Survey of Travel and Activity. And both of them we received from Department of Transport. And the first step we do is that we cluster or group the population, the synthetic population from VTEM, into a number of clusters. And that's for a few reasons. We have limited sample size, so we can't do all of the different population types separately. We can do all of the choice modeling separately. So we cluster them based on the types of activities that they do, and use these clusters later, as I will show you in our choice modeling works. So through the clustering process, we ended up with 6 clusters. Clusters 1 and 2 are workers, male and female. Then we have students, male and female, and the last cluster is others. So housekeepings, unemployed, volunteers, retired, male and female. So that brings the total to 6 clusters, and we use these 6 clusters to create the choice behaviors of the agents. Now, I should mention also the Bendigo ABM work was done mostly by Dr. Sapan Tiwari from our team, and we have presented this work in ATRF conference last year, and there is a paper that is public, and if you're interested, you can learn more by looking at that paper. Now, once we have the clustering done for the synthetic population, we assign a daily activity chain to each of these synthetic travelers. So, for example, a male worker, 35, we assign based on the probabilities that we have from the travel survey. We assign, for example, going to work in the morning, coming back home, going shopping, going to somewhere recreational, and then going back home. So a chain of activities and approximate time will be assigned. Then we do the location assignment. So for work location, education location, and commercial and park. So we have all of the locations in the city of Greater Bendigo, and we use a combination of different methods for each of these. For work, we are looking at the attractiveness of the work destinations, as well as distance likelihood. For education, we look at distance and attraction, but as well as school capacities. And for other destinations, we have a joint sort of probability distribution that we use for, based on distance from home and work. For example, if they have work in their daily itinerary, or education, if they have it in their daily plan. So we try to do all of those together, a joint probability approach. And basically, this is a screenshot of how probabilities are calculated. For example, for someone's home, we calculate the probability of SA1s that most likely the next activity will happen based on the activity type and the probabilities that I mentioned, and then assign it. Again, more details in webinar 1 or the paper that is cited in this slide. Another, I think, innovative things that we ended up doing in this paper, in this research, was to collect route data from Bendigo bike riders through a map-based survey. So we created a map-based survey to collect routes that current bike riders in Bendigo are taking. We received very good number of participations, about I think 280 bike riders responded and provided the journey that they have regularly for going from home to work to different destinations as part of their daily bike riding journey. And we use those to do a route choice modeling work, basically, to see how people choose which route to take when they go from A to B. And for that, in addition to the actual route that a bike rider selected, we also created 15 other alternatives, feasible alternatives for that bike journey. So what if it was the shortest path, but it was the best infrastructure or lowest speed limit or the greenest, and a number of randomly generated alternatives. And we use a combination of all of these through our choice modeling to see what are the factors that people care about when they want to decide what route to take when they go from, for example, home to work. And this is what we found. So it seems that basically all of the factors we included in our route choice model were important. Tree canopy was important, slope, level of traffic stress compared to LTS1, LTS were all significantly important. Number of intersections that they had to cross, again, was important. Detour was important. Now, the direction of these it gives a little bit more detail. For example, number of intersections turn out to be a positively correlated factor. And that's interesting because the more intersection you have, the more connectivity you will have, and the more easier you can get to your destination without having to go high deviation. And also tree canopy came out as negative. So people, it seems that it says that people prefer less green routes. But actually, when we look at the context of Bendigo, we'll see that there are a lot of highly green areas in the city that are not used for commute or not used for bike. So, for example, we have parks, we have some nature reserves sites. All of those things are impacting this tree canopy coverage, and they are used for recreational bike ridings, not for commute bike riding. And the focus of this work was going to destinations, so bike ridings for transport purposes, not for recreation. And that's why we see a little bit of these types of patterns. Now, the last component of the ABM was assigning modes of transport. And for that, we, as I said, we used the 6 clusters that we divided the population to them, workers, male, workers, female, students, male and female, and other population, male and female. And we tested a number of different factors or variables or coefficients that included in the mode choice model. Now, we have some constants for each of the modes of transport. Constants in mode choice models are typically things that we haven't included specifically in the model. So they account for lots of other things that are not in the model specifically. We have public transport travel time, bike travel time, work travel time. We have money, and we have percentage of journey with a bike that is on high level of traffic stress road segments. So, for example, a trip that is, for example, 1 kilometer, what is the distance of that 1 kilometer that was on high LTS 3 and 4? included in the model. And this variable is this coefficient is very important. This is what basically all of our modeling is built on. And when we look at the ones that this one was found to be significant, you will see that this is mostly for workers, male and female, and others, female. So students in the modelings that we did were not found to be sensitive to this variable. And that is one main reason of that is that we didn't have many students, male and female, who rode a bike. So we feel that that's the main reason for this. The sample is small and number of students who ride is small. And when we break it down to male and female, it becomes even smaller. But the main takeaway here is that the model is the most sensitive for workers and maybe other categories, male and female. And that's the types of interventions that we test with these models, that the ones that target these populations. Now, we did a little bit of, not a little, actually, a lot of calibration, validation. Again, this is the work that Sopan did. We sort of worked on the alternative specific constants for all of the modes of transport included to try to get as close as we could to the observed patterns of moisture in the city. And this is the output when we put them all together. We get people. It's, I think, 7 a.m. in the morning. We have lots of people going to work. Now, these are all the activities that we have: home, work, pick up, drop off, shop, other, study. So you see the day height sort of is being simulated in our simulation model. Okay. A few calibration validation graphs. We have a heap of these. I'm going to put them on the project report and probably will be made public and you can have a look at them. But basically, we try to match as closely as we can to the observed patterns for activity timings, activity distances and distribution, times of the departure, number of cars and bikes and public transports that are on board. For public transport, is boarding. We use for example, number of cars on routes. We use, for example, Vista and existing counts to do the comparisons, and a lot of other sort of validations that we included. That's happy to discuss more. Now, building on the two things that we discussed, the Bendigo ABM and the network that we generated and the mode choice modeling included in all of those, we also added a cost-benefit analysis tool. Now, this is mostly built on the ATAP M4 active travel guideline. And the numbers, the variables, the equations, basically we tried to follow ATAP as closely as we could. And I think we did a good job with sticking to ATAP and not being too innovative here. Basically, the core annual benefits included are crash risk reduction, reduction of vehicle operating costs, decongestion, environmental benefits, and health system cost savings. Costs we included in the calculator are upfront capital cost, annual operating cost, and maintenance cost. And we do the appraisal setting for 30 years of analysis period. And we create NPV and BCR at the end for reporting. Now, the sort of a screenshot on the left side of the screen is where we see, actually it's right for you, is mostly the screenshot that we create in our calculator. So you have all of these parameters you can adjust, you can change. But we have also default values based on ATAP, and also there are footnotes for each of them that explains how these are calculated and where you can find them. And then the ones at the bottom are the ones that the tool calculates it automatically for you. Also, we added two additional, more maybe exploratory type of benefits calculation for more land use change and land use benefits type of value. Now, these are maybe less common for bike infrastructure investments, but if there is a bike infrastructure project that is going to have a huge impact on the land values, land city shaping type projects, we have these calculators also included. Now we have two separate approaches for these. If you have detailed, for example, land use, integrated transport modeling, or valuation type outputs, you can use the calculator that we followed ATAP 08 guideline to create. Now, that is going to be, I think, a rare case. You need to have a big project if all of these properly calculated, following the guidelines and following the land use integrated transport modeling approach, and have the second round transport benefits calculated. Now, if you don't have that, and we have lots of warning to say that if you don't have that, don't use this one. Go and use the other one, which is more like an exploratory tool, informational tool, that you can play with numbers. What would be the expected, for example, uplift attributed to cycling intervention? You can add the number, or what would be the additional transport-related gains that you would expect from the project, or your estimated land use uplift value. We can enter in the tool and it will do the calculation, but it's not following the 08 guideline. It's more sort of something to explore. Now, this is where I will give a demo of the tool and how it all looks when we put them together. If you go to this QR code or that URL that I have, you will also see the same web page that I have. Now, when you go to the web page, there are some information about the work that we have done so far and the tool that is created. There is a form that you can fill if you are interested to to get access to the tool. We will provide short-term access to explore and maybe test some toy scenarios, but it's not going to be a sort of a permanent access. A sort of a trial thing. And then when you go and if you have access, you log in, this is what you see. We have a scenario maker page, which is where you can create your scenario, your investment, your bike infrastructure change type of project. There is a user guide on the side that you can read and learn more about how to use the tool. And then, yeah, probably doing things a bit slower in this video than the way I talk, but yeah, all of these links or lines that you see, they are the bike paths, footpaths, car lanes, all of the things that we include in the simulation model. And you can use the tools that are included to select them. And for example, here I selected these number of lanes. I click on edit cycleway, and then I make all of them to have, for example, a separated bike lane, a physically separated bike lane. Now we also have features to create new bike lanes that are non-existent. So they are the two types of interventions that we can test at this stage with the model. So one is adding bike lanes to existing streets. Now, another thing is that you can also use the tool to draw new bike lanes. So for example, I'm just going to connect that part of the street to this part. I'm not sure what is it that I'm crossing with that. Maybe there is a big building that I'm just building a bike lane through it, but yeah, just for the presentation. Now, when you do this, yeah, you also can then go and change the features of that. Yeah. Make it bike path. Let's go a bit faster. Now you can export the output that you just created in different formats, shapefile, GeoJSON, KML, whatever you're comfortable. But also you can upload the scenario that you just created to our Amazon Web Service, sort of a virtual environment. Now, I should also mention that we are benefiting from RMIT's brace infrastructure, which is RMIT Advanced Computing Environment sort of, or ecosystem infrastructure that they provide lots of cloud computing infrastructure for us. Now, another page in this tool is Scenario Viewer. So if you go there, you will see all the changes that you just created, how they look like, what will be the potential impact of that. Now, it's going to take about 20 minutes to do all of the calculations. So you will see there is a progress bar on the side that is showing the calculations. I should mention that typical simulation and at this level takes about a day. So now that we are doing it in 20 minutes, that's a huge significant improvement. But yeah, I get that 20 minutes might not be the most fastest approach that we have. So for now, we are just using the existing example. You get pages for mode shift for different demographics, mode shift for different trip purposes. You get mode shift for catchments within 1 kilometer catchment of the scenario, 3 kilometer catchment of the scenario. We have mode share or bicycle volume change around the scenario, origin and destinations of the bike trips in the city, and then at the end we have the cost-benefit calculator, the one that I just presented earlier. You can edit all of these, but the default values are there, and you get the BCR and NPV at the end. And also there are tools for the other land use values I mentioned. You also have an emission add-on that you get CO2 emission, PM2.5, NO2, NOx. Now this is just showing the baseline. We don't calculate for the scenario, and that's because it just takes too much time. But yeah, the capability is there, and we can implement this as well if there's a need for that. Now, I just want to finish by a number of examples that we tested for City of Bendigo. The first one was Eaglehawk Long Gully intervention, which is about a 3.7 kilometer shared path that is going to be that is proposed for the location that you see. Now, looking at the outputs of the tool, we will see that the result of this is if you look at the trips that are within 3 kilometer catchment or 1 kilometer catchment, we will see that we have, I think, about 4% for trips within 3 kilometer buffer reduction in use of level of traffic SRS 3 and 4, and 3% increase in LTS1. For trips that are within 1 kilometer buffer of the intervention, we have 40% increase, 45% increase in LTS1, and 10% decrease in LTS 3 and 4, which makes our model a very good choice. You look at the outputs and changes, and this is the mode shifts that we see, about 1% or more than 1% for trips within 1 kilometer catchment. And this is the output that we get from the cost-benefit analysis tool that, as you can see, there is a huge amount of benefits for existing bike riders. Now, there are also good benefits for new bike riders as a result of this, and you get the outputs at the end. Another example we have here is Monday Street, which is about 1.3 kilometer of shared path that is going to be added. Now, this case is interesting because when we look at the LTS changes, the street there is currently LTS2, categorized as LTS2. It's a 40 kilometer per hour street with a bike lane that is going to get through this scenario a shared path. So what we get is a huge amount of increase for LTS1, making it suitable for everyone, including children, to ride. But it's not going from LTS 3 and 4 to LTS1. It's going from LTS2 to LTS1. So if you remember, our mode choice modeling was mostly for high LTS to low LTS. So that's why we don't see a lot of mode shift in the calculation. Instead, what we see is a lot of benefits for existing trips as a result of this. Now, again, every tool, every model will have limitations, will have uses that it's built for. So this, this just needs to be mentioned, and it needs to be taken into consideration when using a tool. And now the final example is a low-line scenario or intervention that is under consideration. And this is, again, a good case because we see a decrease of 12% from LTS 3 and 4 to LTS 1 increase, which makes the model a sort of a good tool to test both mode shift, so it benefits as a new trips, as well as benefits for existing trips. And yeah, this is what we get. Now, final slide from me. Currently, what the tool is doing is that it's looking at the bike infrastructure investments that changes LTS 3 and 4 to LTS 1 and 2. But with better data, we can do more. We can make it more detailed in capturing the infrastructure changes. It's also not looking at intersections at the moment. We know that that's an important factor. Which, again, in future, we can expand and work on that. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the mode shift module is currently more responsive or sensitive for adults. We don't have much rich data for children. So riding to a school types of investment or infrastructures are not going to be best captured by our model. And it's mostly focused on commute trips. Now, it's currently built for Bendigo, but as you saw with the network and everything, we can, it's designed to be scalable, and that's what we are aiming to do next, to work with more partners to try to expand the model geographically and also with features and capabilities that is included. And hopefully we get richer data to have better choice models and include more factors. And also look at a combination of different scenarios. So for now, we have only adding bike lanes or adding bike paths, but also it could be a combination of different types of infrastructure investments together that you want to create sort of a safer environment, such as end-of-trip facilities, intersection treatment, all of those things. They are not being included in the tool at the moment. Now, just finish with acknowledgement. This has been an amazing project. I need to really thank DTP and Bendigo for all of the support. We had so many times that even people from DTP or Bendigo reached out to us and said, hey, we have this data set. You might find it useful. Go and use it. And we were like, okay, that's fantastic. You solved a problem. I think this was a really, really fantastic collaboration because we all were passionate about bikes and are passionate about bikes and making it safer for everyone. Also, in particular, I thank the project team members who did all of the works that I presented. Sopan, Ryan Turner, who did all of the fast track work development that you saw, all of the tools, all of the backend, AWS, all of those things is Ryan's work. Steve Pemberton, Nikhil Chand, Shuai Zhang, and Atif Soleimani Rudi for all of the hard works that they did, as well as other investigators in RMIT and project teams. All right, that's all from me. Sorry, I went a little bit over time, Scott, but back to you.
That's okay, Afshin. Your punishment will be in the mail. We've got about 12 minutes left, and we've got quite a few questions to get through. Starting with probably one for you, Afshin. Does the model suggest that there may be a net benefit to reallocate road space towards cycling?
Yeah, so I think that question, there are a number of things to consider when we think about road space allocation. Now, so what is captured currently in the model is benefits of bike infrastructure for uptake of cyclists, uptake of bike. What is not included is when you take a space from cars, you also are disincentivizing car use because you are changing the allocation of the road. So we are not capturing that element of the infrastructure investment. So what happens if you take one car lane away and make it a bike lane? What happens to the traffic? What happens to the congestion and the impact of that on a mode of transport? We are not capturing that. But in general, as we saw in the choice modeling outputs, bike infrastructure is for sure a key factor that people care about when they want to decide to use a bike or not.
This question might be for Afshin and Bruno. What's the current mode share for cycling in Victoria and Bendigo?
Yeah, so Bendigo case, I need to go back to the slides that we had, but it's not much. It's about 1 to 2% overall for bike share in different parts of the city. Now, when we look at the Greater Melbourne case, we have higher concentration of bike use in inner suburbs. So, for example, it goes to 7-8% in inner suburbs in Melbourne, but when you go to outer, it goes much less. So the average is about 1 to 2%.
I think yeah, probably 2 to 3.
Yeah, 2 to 3.
I've seen, but yeah, it's there's a great variability there. Yeah, spot on.
And in terms of Bendigo itself, has there been much infrastructure for cycling built in the last 5 years?
Maybe that's for Matt.
Yeah, so we haven't completed a lot in the last 5 years, but we're currently in the middle of 2 really key projects for the city. So our Low Line project and Mundy Street Shared Path, which Afshin spoke to there in the presentation. So they're really key projects for us. They'll connect our into and through our city centre, both north, south, and east, west. So really key bits of infrastructure.
And someone's also asked the thoughts on Austroad's LTS and why that wasn't used.
I think that was very, very similar to the, but maybe Afshin, you want to take this one? Very similar to the LTS methodology.
I continue on the same comment you had. It's very similar, but also why it was not used, because I think we were first. So we started doing this, we were implementing all of these things, and then I think Austroad is a little bit more recent, starting to look at level of traffic history, which is fantastic. But yeah, we did a comparison, and it's not that different. And also I think the approach that we have for looking at certain lengths shouldn't be considered, or certain configuration with parking shouldn't be considered a suitable bike lane. I think that's an important sort of conversation to have.
Someone's asked that this is all very interesting from a researcher's point of view, but in terms of a practitioner's point of view, what's the justification towards trying to predict in detail the future people behaviour rather than approach the same problem from an accessibility point of view? See, what could people do?
I can take this one. This is a great question. Love it. Yeah, so what is pretty amazing with that tool is that it's not a tool that is a predict and or classic traditional predict and provide. It's really a bit of a design, decide and provide type of tool. So it allows to compare different scenarios for a range of different projects. So certainly the practitioners would come up with some of the key strategic gaps on the network, the priority networks that they have in mind, but they can actually generate through that tool a rapid business case, which is groundbreaking. You can literally have within minutes a template that is investment mission ready and work with the relevant governance of your teams as practitioners. And yeah, it's quite amazing to have that level of granularity and be able to test both on-road, off-road combination of different forms of cycling infrastructure in one tool, and obviously having the output as a rapid business case.
This question apologises if they missed it in the presentation, but the Vista data set's predominantly metro-based for Melbourne and Geelong. Does that introduce a potential limitation in the underlying data when used in the context of Bendigo and other regional cities?
So that is actually a very good question, because that has been a limitation for the work that we did. Now I don't want to go into too much of the conceptual thinking behind it, but basically the assumption that we did here, and I think a valid sort of assumption, is that people are the same. So values are the same. The same person values things similarly across different built environment contexts. What changes is the infrastructure. So you have a city that provides a better infrastructure, a part of the city that provides a better infrastructure. You have a part of the city that perhaps doesn't have that type of infrastructure. The way we see it is that the values, how people evaluate safe infrastructure versus unsafe, that is not the main difference. The main difference is the built environments, how infrastructure is differently distributed. And that was the way that we looked at the limitations of the data, and particularly Victorian survey that we used in this project.
This sounds like a multiple question. Could you provide more details on the bicycle attributes used in network construction? Are they all directly available from OSM in this instance? For instance, similarly, do LTS measures, are the required metrics directly available from OSM, or are external data sources applied?
Yes, so we included a couple of, no, not quite, actually a lot of external data set, but all of them are public. And the code repository for creating the network is also publicly available. So all of the documentations, at least, and I should mention that at the beginning of the project, we had this understanding that if there is something produced that we feel like the methodology is going to be useful for others, we will make that also public. And network is one of the things that we feel like others are going to benefit from having access to the methodology. So yeah, it's all documented, it's all there. But in summary, we look at some vegetation data sets, GTFS for public transport, DEM for the slope or for the elevation, and a number of other data sets that we include for example, the school zones, for a school zone, the speed limits, all of those things. We merge all of them, create a whole network, and yeah, the methodology is also available.
Speaking of schools, how does the model change or improve prioritization compared to a simpler approach based on connecting residential catchments to key destinations like schools, stations, and activity centres?
Now, I
You want to take that
make a
one?
quick comment and then hand over to you, Bruno. I think one main thing here is that the accessibility type approaches are just based on the existing demand, perhaps at best, but typically they are assuming that whoever is in this catchment goes there. So it's not a dynamic way of looking at demand and infrastructure and change of accessibility, how that impacts the whole demand as a factor. So what we do here is that we look at changes in the infrastructure, how that impacts the demand, and then how all of that comes together to create a sort of a outcome for the scenario. So that's maybe one modeling approach to add, but more maybe specific to the schools. Bruno, if you want to add.
No, I think that was a great question too. Actually, there's a couple of things probably to unpack a bit more, and we'll take also more questions that we're going to respond to if we don't have the time today. The key thing to keep in mind is that this is a bit of a first step. Obviously it's focusing on cycling. It is an intermodal sort of extension. It's plugged in with the existing modeling packages that we have available. But obviously the purpose of the tool is to fine-tune existing and future transport projects, and to calibrate them and to evidence them at a financial level in a consistent format. And with that level of granularity, I don't think there's any other tool that exists worldwide and that can provide this level of evidence and really robust from a financial point of view. So that's where the benefit is. It doesn't mean that undertaking I guess a really detailed user-based assessment and school catchment are definitely part of that. Is not something that our practitioners and colleagues should focus on. That's definitely very important, especially when it comes to the detail of specific projects. So, the specific routes and access points to a school catchment. That's really important. And I guess the last thing is that probably in the macros and backend indicators of the tool, there's a lot of profile of different agents and users, and that's something that is captured certainly. Great question though.
Thanks, Bruno. That runs out our hour. Thanks for all the questions. And as Bruno mentioned, the ones that we didn't get to, we will get answers from and publish it when we publish the video. As I mentioned before, the video will be published probably tomorrow. I'll let you all know when it's up and running. I'll link you to the previous webinar and I'll link you to the project page. And I'll also ask Afshin if we have the capacity to share his slide deck. Other than that, to say thank you for all attending. We hope you found it interesting. It's a very quick slice of a very large piece of work, and congratulations to everyone involved. We hope you join us for our next project outcome webinar, which as it stands is 1 week's time, where we're looking at the award-winning and important work in using CITS to help motorcyclists be safe on the roads. So other than that, thank you very much. Thank you, Matt, Bruno and Afshin, and we'll see you all later. Bye-bye.